Test, test. Is there a weird echo happening on the stream, or is it just the recording? Test, test. Is there a weird echo? Alright, cool. Seems like the audio issue is only happening with doing a recording through Streamlabs. So I'm just gonna quickly finish eating this breakfast. So I'll mute the mic and then we'll get to painting. So just hang tight, everybody. So I'll mute the mic. Okay, almost ready, everybody. Thank you for your patience. Just had some troubleshooting to do that delayed the eating of breakfast. Okay, hello everybody. Good morning, or good evening, depending on where you are. Do we have any Europe or Asia representation in the stream? Just gotta adjust my lighting a bit here. What kind of granola? It's I don't know. I think it's Nature Valley or something. I can't quite remember. It had almonds and some dark chocolate in it. You know, it was good. Yogurt and granola's a go-to because it's quick and easy to make. Hello from Europe, Artie Chard. Also, hello, the other MC and Lord Zace. Got my I Heart Mustache mug here. Hello, Doodlebopped. You got to the last model in your backlog. Wow. But it's the one you've put off for the longest time. Well, that explains why it's the last one in the backlog. What model are we talking about here? I guess before I get to actual painting, I can show you all. Oh, I've got some pieces right in front of me that I've already started painting one of the base coats on. One of the base coat colors. You can see these pieces here. We got black going on here. And same with here. I started base coating the black last night and recorded the stuff I need to record, so I don't need to awkwardly turn on the camera interface for the stream. The main thing I finished before this stream yesterday, though, was the base. So the base is pretty much done. Take a look at it. Oh, the Master Grade Strike Freedom, a classic. It's relevant time to build the Strike Freedom model kit at the moment as well. So yeah, this is the base. I used a Games Workshop one and cut these quarters out of plasticard. Because I wanted to apply shifter paint to the texture and like leave gaps so the texture is showing through. And those are like the quadrants for the arcs in whichever tabletop game I'll be using this mech for. And instead of the gradient going like out this direction and in this direction, like with the blue bases I painted on the filigreed model kits, this one I've got the gradient kind of going rotate. I gotta angle the base in a way, lower it a bit so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. It's bright here, dark here, bright here, dark here, and the edge highlights also just barely reflect that. I was going for a bit of a subtle look because you know, there's gonna be a whole mech standing on top of this, so it's really the secondary feature to look at. But that's the base. Hello, large beverage. Good morning. Speaking of beverage, my coffee is empty, so I'm probably gonna go microwave a new one before we get to the proper painting. I guess I haven't. Some of you on Discord might have seen the work in progress photos I posted that have the gold and primer done on them. I think publicly on Instagram it's just the unpainted whips posted right now, but it was just airbrushed Vallejo model color old gold, and then a bit of dry brushing and washing was done on top of that, which was recorded for the proper video, so you'll see at least get some explanation of that process eventually. Okay, gotta fill up this coffee and that'll be painting time. Be right back. Okay, got the hot bean juice. Now we can really get started. Apologies again for the minor delay we had. Don't know why the video recording has a weird echo. So the the auto exposure on the webcam of the stream is going really dark for some reason. I'm kind of talking from a black void. It's probably because of the white shirt I'm wearing. That is not a big deal for the stream. So this stream will probably all be base coating the same color of black. Like I think every single hand painted Gunpla I've done has had black as like a secondary armor color. But the plan for this project is we are going to have some panels with the gray as a color. You know, with some surprise detailing that's going to go on top of that. And then other panels are going to go to like an almost white. So for the base coat of that, we just have a lighter gray. But I feel like this stream will be all black, I think. Because, you know, there's a decent amount of it to do. So it's going to take a while. So we better get right to it then. How's everyone doing, by the way? Is anyone else working on hobby stuff? Do you have me open in another tab at work? You don't have to answer that if you don't want to. And I'm using this Gadzooks Gaming Mother Brush. It can hold an okay tip when it's like wet and has paint on it, but it does like split apart fairly often, so it'll be a fun exercise. Okay, I guess I should work on one that's already gotten some painting. And this surface primer black from Vallejo, I don't thin it too much because it's kind of designed to go straight into an airbrush. So when I'm hand painting it on, I don't really thin it, and it usually takes about 2 coats. So not 2 thin coats like Lord Duncan commands, just 2 coats. But the paint is like on the thinner side, so it's kind of 2 thin coats. So we got this waist piece here. And I haven't like finished the black on any of the pieces yet, so I will be like figuring out the blocking of these colors as we go. So who knows, maybe I'll paint something black now and then change my mind on it later. And do let me know if the mic is too hot or too cold, or if the camera focus is getting real jittery, as always. Would like to stream for at least 2 hours like usual, probably a bit longer. Hello, Aimer. You're building the Advance of Zeta Hyzenthly. Cool. Large beverage is at work, as I suspected. Happy to provide you some work hour entertainment, of course. Yeah, it's like this middle part here. I'm not sure what color I want to do that. I think I'm gonna have to paint the torso or figure out the color blocking on the torso, and that'll help me decide the color blocking on that. So for the time being, let's paint this shoulder piece here. which has plenty of black details to be picked out. The shoulders on this Kitbash is probably like the one of the jankier parts of the Kitbash, because it's a pretty jank Kitbash. The shoulders and arms were like constructed with a lot of pieces that aren't necessarily shoulder and arm pieces. But it's like, because the whole Kitbash, or the Kitbash as a whole, is like decently janky, at least it's like consistent throughout, you know? You can see here there's some like undesirable super glue texture from where that top piece was glued on. Just part of the reason why I wanted this section to be black, because black will hide those defects a bit easier. And sorry, some of the nooks and crannies here won't be the easiest thing to show off on camera, but I'll do my best. Said 2 coats earlier, but for some of the flatter sections it's more like 3 coats. Yeah, like the inner details of the shoulder here, those glue mistakes I was mentioning on the, not glue mistakes, the glue texture that I was mentioning on the other side of this piece a moment ago, it's like also a bit of a problem on the inside of the shoulder. But these areas, you know, the way the model is going to look on the base posed, these areas won't be super high visible, so with appropriate edge highlighting and making the details that do have the texture present black should mitigate most of that issue. And if I keep going along in this process and it looks like it needs to be mitigated more, I can perhaps take a sanding sponge to some select areas off camera later on. Right now, the stage of the project, the main focus is to block out other colors and decide what goes where in the first place. And I know I should be hyped for the Gundam Seed Freedom movie that's hitting the Canadian theaters this month. But I never finished watching Gundam Seed, so I'm like more excited for the the Spy Family Code White film that's gonna be releasing also this month. It's me and Blue Parappa Watched Spy Family last year. She's read the manga, all the manga. I haven't read any of it. But I watched all the anime with her and found it pretty enjoyable. Well, more than pretty enjoyable. It was pretty great. Lots of fun hijinks in that show. So for this part here, we're painting it all black, as you can see, but this middle channel here, we're going to leave gold to let that shine through. I think on the last Gundam project, I hand painted with, or I hand painted the black with game color black instead of the surface primer black. And it perhaps has like slightly better coverage for one hand painting on, but the black itself is like a bit more of a dark gray compared to this one, and dries to like a very matte finish. And I wasn't sure if I wanted that for this project, so thought I'd go back to painting with this primer, because it doesn't need to match the black on the other Gamma Wolves customs I did recently, because those ones are the filigreed ones. So they use the game color black. I need them all to be consistent, but this one's going to be kind of a rogue agent, so the colors can be a bit different. Yes, large beverage. I recommend Spy Family. I give it the Mayhem seal of approval. Yeah, hopefully painting these pieces black does well to conceal my not great job at smoothing out the glue residue with the sanding. Cause surprise, surprise, I rushed the sanding because I don't like sanding. Another anime we watched after after we finished Spy Family, we needed another kind of like hijinks laden show with some romantic tension, so we watched the 3rd season of Kaguya-sama Love is War. Another entertaining, wholesome anime. It had been a while since we watched the first 2 seasons, but I think over like I watched the first season when it first came out, and then I watched it and the second season with Blue Parappa a couple years ago. And season 3 just kept the good times rolling. It's like it has more of a slice of life comedy sketch vibe than Spy Family does. And it's more of like high school romantic comedy. But for me, it kind of scratched the same itch that Spy Family did. Am I interested in the Fallout show? Yeah, a little bit. I'll probably check it out, at least the first episode. I never played any of the Fallout games, but you know, they're so well known. I'm very like aware of them, and you know, I've watched a lore video here and there. I think it's pretty neat. Honestly, the main draw to the Fallout show for me is Kyle MacLachlan. Big Twin Peaks fan. But yeah, it looks like a good show. The guy who plays the ghoul, Walton Goggins, whatever his name is, I've enjoyed him in other films as well. Okay, now this piece here, I was having a hard time trying to decide what color I even want to do it. I think it's also going to be black, just because a lot of stuff in the shoulder area is going to be black. I guess I might as well spoil part of the project on this stream, because only those of you watching will know, but the main gimmick for the detailing on this one, it's not going to be filigree or the classic Model Mayhem gradients. I'm going to try and use some decals, but I'm gonna do it like Model Mayhem style with the edge highlighting like usual. It's just once the edge highlighting is done, instead of gradients or freehand, we're gonna get some decals and see how that goes. I've got a couple sheets selected already, but you know, there is many hours of hand painting to do before we get to that stage. But that's the current rough customization plan, where it's like the same as usual in the sense of like I'm mostly locking the pose in place, putting it on a base, hand painting it, but adding decals as a twist, because I don't put decals on things too often, but I've enjoyed doing it in the past. So felt like this was a good, since this is like a rogue agent mech that isn't on a specific crew, we can play around with the usual customizations a bit. It doesn't have to be as consistent. Also, the color scheme, the overall color scheme I got planned for this is pretty exciting. Looking forward to sharing that. Oh, hello, Shane. Walton Goggins. I did get his name right. Yeah, I think it seemed like the Fallout show surprised everyone at how good an adaptation it was. RD Chart asks what my thoughts on the Netflix Gundam show. Do you mean the one that's not out yet? The one called like Requiem for Vengeance, where it's like an Unreal Engine animation? Or are you talking about the like live action one that with Jordan Vogt Roberts or whatever his name is doing? The one that's like probably not going to be out for a while? Which Netflix Gundam are you talking about? Large beverage. Well, kudos to you for trying to paint an artifact. If it's the first thing you ever hand painted, you know, it's, you don't want to set your, like, put too much pressure on yourself. Yeah, sometimes my hands are shaky, but like I know how to brace them against either my like fingers or the handle I'm using to like get rid of the shakes. But sometimes even with me I have to stop painting because the shakes are too much. Ooh, we're out of focus. Oh boy, howdy. Thank you for the $5 super chat, Country Fried Minis. Good morning to you. I will vigorously take a sip of my coffee in your honor in a moment. As you can see in the hobby space today, we got some good old Gunpla Kitbash hand painting. Starting the day off right, you know? Nothing like scheduling a morning stream the night before so you can hopefully wake up and just get right to that instead of waking up and accidentally playing a couple hours of Baldur's Gate, you know? Okay, I think that's enough black on this piece for now. Perhaps when I do some more armor blocking on other pieces and with other colors, I might want to add more. Requiem. Yeah, that Requiem for Vengeance. Some of the elements of like the Gundam and Zaku redesigns look cool, but some of them are a little jank. Animation looks decent. I didn't watch the trailer and immediately go like, wow, I gotta watch that as soon as it comes out. But yeah, I'll probably watch it. I don't have access to Netflix right now, so I'll have to find some way to watch just for that. But, you know, as someone with a heavy involvement in Gunpla, we'll say, or Gundam, I do want to watch that one eventually, so. Alright, now in this arm piece, there are like similar bits to this than there were on the shoulders, so we'll start by painting those black for consistency. I can tell my paint is a little too thin right now. And also, if you're wondering, yes, my painting is a little inefficient with the fact that like I primed this black and then because I'm painting in minimal amounts of sub assemblies, I proceed to blast everything with this metallic color and then I paint black back over top of the areas. Because I just generally like to get the airbrushing done fast. So that therefore I use less sub-assemblies. Yeah, I didn't notice the slow walking too much in the trailer. That always gets into, you know, the interesting dilemmas of how do you portray the movement of something like a mech that is like scientifically wouldn't really work in real life. Generally, I think the slow walking can look good because it can conveys like the mass. I guess it depends on how big the mobile suit is in general. Yeah, these panels here, I'm not sure. I think they're not gonna be black. They're gonna be gray or something. Let's work on the top of this here. Now, if any of you remember the classic Millennium Mall Mayhem project of the Master Grade Buster Gundam for Gamma Wolves, also used the same side skirt thruster bits as arm weapons, but those were the 1/100 scale Master Grade version of those bits, because that's a Master Grade size kit. Well, it's a Master Grade kit. So now, with this smaller one, it's got like essentially the same, or not, it's got the same melee weapon loadout, but like smaller scale. So, you know, putting these next to each other on the battlefield, there'll be plenty of opportunities of like, who are you? I'm you, but smaller. I'll have to come up with something better for the video, obviously. And I'm not gonna like compare the two so much while I'm painting. In terms of like blocking out the colors, I'll just go by feel and block out the colors and how I see fit, and then we'll compare them after to see if I like made the same decisions on this that I did with the Buster when it came to blocking out the colors on these weapons. Oh yeah, and for anyone watching, big recommend that you go check out Country Fried Minis. Very good and underrated model painting channel. And if you're not into like the minis side of things, you should give it a shot, and Country Fried Minis would be a good place to start because there are plenty of painted mechs there as well. Just like Spy Family, it gets the Mayhem seal of approval. If that means anything to you. Yeah, the slow walking works in Pacific Rim because the mechs in Pacific Rim are like very big ones. They're like, you know, big enough to fight kaijus. It's a lot bigger than the scale of a Gundam. Hello, cools. Okay, now I just need to study this piece for a minute. To figure out which parts are going to get the black next. I don't want to put too much black on. Because the black sections probably aren't going to get any decals. Yeah. Hello, Robin Hood. Ah, the second season of Pacific Rim Black. I had completely forgotten about that show. I didn't even know there was a second season, or I forgot. I watched the first season and it had some good moments, but also some moments that were a bit WTF for me. Which is too bad, because the Pacific Rim franchise is just weird and jank now. Bit of lost potential there, you know. I never fully watched the second Pacific Rim movie. Okay, this black on the palette is almost used up, so I'm going to take that as an opportunity to switch to a different color. Just to switch things up a bit. Just use the rest on here for second coat up top here. Question for people watching, since I think the settings are slightly different from last stream, is or have any of you seen an ad on this stream yet? Also, if you use an ad blocker, no need to feel bad. That is totally understandable. Okay, let's base coat a section that's going to end up being gray. One at the start, gotcha. Mostly just wondering because when you, oh, and this color, if anyone's wondering, is Formula P3 Iron Hull Gray, which I've used on, I think this is one of the main highlight colors I use for the black on the filigreed mobile suits I've done. But yeah, when you're setting up the stream, you can have like, well, you can set it where you place the midstream ads yourself, but that's like too distracting from the painting. So I go with the default of like letting YouTube insert them automatically. You can set it between like conservative amounts of ads and like medium amounts of ads or high frequency. And I'm wondering, I think for this stream I went with conservative, which is what I've done before. But it doesn't specify like what the difference between a conservative amount and a moderate amount is. Now these big wide panels here, it could be gray, which would be like probably the sensible choice, or they could be white, which would be the more like the choice with more flair, because it's like big white panels at the top, near the top of the model. They're some of the bigger ones. Could be exciting. It's hard to say, really. And so we got these areas here. And, And I think, like, for this panel would make sense for them to be the same color. If they were different colors, it might, like, look a little funky. About to sneeze. Excuse me. Yeah, large beverage. If you have YouTube Premium, you won't get any ads by design. So if you do white here, then like this section will be gray. Anyway, maybe we could go like white, gray, gray. Tough decision. I think we'll go for the more stylish route, and we'll just punish ourselves later by having to paint like almost pure white on the across this flat panel. Find out later whether I regret this decision. Carefully painting around those panels. Let that gold shine through. And yeah, you can already tell pretty hard, or pretty obviously, how this paint is more designed for hand brushing on, and will not need as many coats as the black surface primer. Big fan of P3 paints. Saddened that my local retailer basically cut off all ties from Privateer Press and no longer carries these paints. Which I can't exactly blame them for. I guess I lied at the beginning of the stream when I said this one would mostly be black. I'm glad it isn't, because painting nothing but black for like straight up 2.5 hours, maybe not the best choice for streaming. Let's add some exciting grays in there, you know? Thank you, Cools, for the blessing. And just coming up on the hour mark now. Now I am seeing I could paint this like section black and then this section gray. But there is a pretty solid mix of blacks already, so I don't know. Or actually, I'll paint this section gray and then maybe we'll do the front part black. Or maybe I just won't paint it yet and I'll make the decision later when I have a better sense of the overall balance of colors. Obviously, when I paint the second shoulder piece that is the same as this one, it'll go a lot faster when I already have all the color blocking figured out. Back to anime for a second. One anime that I am watching right now that I'll probably watch some more of today is So no Frieren. The anime about that elf who collects spells, Frieren. I'm not sure what the English title of the show is. Everyone just refers to it as Frieren. It's the one with that it's the popular show with the elf in it that isn't Dungeon Meshi. I did watch the first episode of Dungeon Meshi and thought it was very good, and I do like Studio Trigger a lot. So, we'll get to that one eventually. But me and my friend decided to go with Frieren first. And now if the wide panels here are gonna be white, then I think it makes sense to paint these panels in the middle here gray. I think I might leave this connective detail in the middle here gold, just for funsies. And this is a very mediocre quality brush, so it's got a pretty curved tip. I think I'm probably more used to painting with brushes with curved tips like this than I am ones with fine tips. Alright, I'm getting decision paralysis on the rest of the panels, so let's switch to a different part. Now this one here. Well, this piece is gonna be sitting alongside the shoulder, kind of like that. I'm feeling like this larger panel here will get the white, so we'll do the gray on the sides. You know, just give myself more brighter white panels to paint. Maybe, okay. Maybe we want the side ones to be the white on this one. Yeah, let's go with that. I don't want to drive myself too crazy with this project. It's already crazy enough. And as you can see on this, this is the largest panel I've painted with this gray so far. You can see that classic problem with hand painting where you just have a bunch of brush strokes showing. So I don't know, I'm getting the vibe this will take probably 3 thin coats to look decent. Gotta make sure it's had enough time to dry in between those coats, otherwise I'll tear up the paint and leave a bad texture. Alright. Excuse me. Okay, let's see. So if these parts will get white, that'll wrap over to this side. So that means we can paint this panel gray, so that it's not neighboring the same color. There isn't enough gold in this panel line to preserve it, so I'm just gonna like preemptively fill it with the gray there. Okay, so that means this section will be white, so I think we'll do this little section here black and then the bicep gray. Because that area is like minor enough, so I don't think we need any white there, personally. I think overall gray will probably take up the most panel space. And then white and black will have to probably end up being relatively equal amounts of each. Perhaps slightly more white, we'll see. My paint strokes are methodical. Glad you think so. Thank you. I try. I find the hand painting can be a lot more relaxing than the airbrushing for me, so it's what helps me do the tedious hand painting sessions, I suppose. Alright, the back panel here is ready for its second coat. But I'm also ready for another sip of water. Excuse me. Yeah, once this gray on the palette is used up, I'll probably take that as another opportunity to switch colors, and we'll switch to the lighter gray that's gonna be the white base coat. Oh, and speaking of that gray Country Fried Minis, it's that when I was watching your stream last night and you were painting with this color, I was like, oh, I got the same color on my desk. Good old medium sea gray. Debating whether I need to add a drop or two of white to it for the initial base coat. I think we'll have to see how bright a white it looks in comparison to this iron hull gray that I'm currently using. Yeah, as much as a lot of my projects are all about like the big vibrant colors, a lot of my paint collection, or over the years, my paint collection has amassed a lot of different grays and browns, just because, well, for sci-fi mecha type stuff, I find there's just like, it doesn't hurt to have a variety of grays to choose from, and then when painting like fantasy minis, browns is the equivalent situation. It's like there's lots of, I suppose for a lot of sci-fi minis too, there's usually a lot of various straps, belts, pouches, and boots that need to be painted. So it's handy to have a variety of browns. Like especially for my 100 Kingdoms conquest army, there's a variety of different leather tones that have been employed. This panel will get its second coat. It's looking like 2 coats will do. Will get me where I need to go with this color. Oh, I can see that there's like a fiber or a hair that got painted onto the panel there. I gotta catch those while the paint's dry. And I can see that brush splitting that I was talking about. We got 2 tips here. It's easy enough to work around as long as you keep the brush loaded up with enough paint. And yeah, it looks like the paint went on a little too thick on this bicep, but we're committed. We're just gonna go with it. It's not that bad. It only looks bad because I'm looking at the piece so up close. Hopefully no one notices. Might end up entering this project into the Gunpla competition at the anime convention, and it's in like 20 days or so. I think, well, there's small, medium, and large category, and I think awkwardly everything I've painted that I could enter this year, like, that all fits into the medium category, so I think I'll only have 1 entry. I haven't checked the details yet. Last year I entered the Martellus, the red filigreed Gushin Delanza Kitbash, into the medium. I entered the... Was this last year? Yeah. And I entered the Gundam Artifact Nightingale into small category, and then entered Vidar Batos into large. And then I won it with the artifact in the small category. But yeah, this year, maybe I'll only end up entering 1 thing into the medium category, because I think everything I have that I could enter is medium size. So I feel like the most likely one I'll enter is the Gundam Aerial, but we'll see. We'll see how this one goes. 2 thin coats? Yeah, it's thinned a little bit. Probably, oh, sorry, I bumped the camera with my head there. It's probably not as thin as Lord Duncan would have wanted, but, you know, that's how we're doing it. Alright, I'm feeling like it's time to move back to the waist piece for the rest of this gray. We haven't worked on that piece in a hot minute. And now with this one, I think we want the big back panel here to be the gray one. Because if we make this the white, then that's gonna be a bit of a nightmare. But these like side panels here are a little janky with the slots on the side here. So I think we're gonna we'll just separate it out with just painting it black. Or maybe leaving it gold, we'll see. That's another situation where I'll have to make a decision on it later after I have a better sense of the overall color balance. But for now, we've got a big flat panel to make all gray. And it's the butt panel, so it's not gonna get like as much focus as or it's not gonna have as much of a draw as the other sections, so we don't need it to be the big eye-catching white anyways. Oh, hello, XeroxEXE111. Thanks for coming by. Almost the weekend, that's right. Thank you for the very hype, encouraging message there. My weekend will, I think, there's a few family commitments, a few chores, and then the rest will be painting. I might do a live stream tomorrow. We shall see. Could be tomorrow evening or perhaps another morning stream on Saturday. Depends on whether I feel like doing another stream of base coating or just powering through the base coating, documenting the next work in progress photos, and then have the next live stream I provide to you be an edge highlighting stream. Also known as an edging stream, right, Country Fried Minis? If you're still watching. Yeah, there you are. Mini Painter Challenge. Make a piece of content involving edge highlighting and don't make a joke about edging. Difficulty, impossible. Okay, well, we're out of gray on the palette now, so the second thin coats for that ass panel are gonna have to wait. Same dog, same. The mind is eternally in the gutter. And every day is just a struggle to keep it out of the gutter. Okay, now this gray. I think we'll do the initial layer of this white base coat. We'll just go with the straight up medium sea gray just for consistency. But then maybe for our second coat, we'll mix in just a bit of white. We'll see. The problem with mixing in some white is like I gotta like mixing the exact same ratio for all the other armor panels. It's like hard to get it exactly right. And like the alternative is mix like a ton of it all at once and then paint all the panels in one session, but that's like not realistic. I'll start here and we can see how much brighter of a tone it is when it's properly dry. I like how I was painting around that panel there and then I just said, screw it. We'll fix it in post. And post is in like when I'm painting later. Oh, I think I messed up that panel line there a bit. The main thing I need to avoid doing is just painting over the gold bits, because going back to fix those up is going to be tricky because of the fact they're airbrushed, dry brushed, and washed, which makes it tricky to do quick touch-up mistakes. The ideal way to fix those is to wipe it up when the paint's still wet. Well, it's not quite dry yet. You can see it's definitely a lighter tone. It could be lighter, so I think we'll just do one coat with the pure medium sea gray, and then we'll mix in white for our second coat. Just a bit. This looks like it could be a bit too thin right now. Typically, it's better to be too thin than too thick. you know, paint-wise. That's right, Robert. We're full on in the WAP zone with this project. Happy I can provide that WAP content for you as always. You can kind of see the way it's dried on the top here, or there's like sort of pooling going on just from the paint being just a bit too thin. All right, let that dry for a bit. Brush has too much paint on it. And I am practicing bad brush technique here in the sense I'm getting paint into the ferrule of the brush. I don't want it to go to waste, so I'm gonna just apply some of it before I rinse it off. I would be a bit more diligent about this if I was painting with one of my top quality brushes. But, you know, it's the base coating stage, so we're just using a mediocre brush. Because no matter how much you baby a brush, it'll still get worn down from continuous use. And the nice brushes I have, I can't afford to just be buying brushes willy-nilly, so we gotta make them last. Okay, let's wash this brush off now. Funny, the wet palette paper at the end of this project, because y'all know how I usually take a photo of what the wet palette looks like at the end of the project. This one will be interesting. I've done like the purple bits of the WAP for the base are done already, so we've got the vibrant purple section over there. Oh, now that I'm looking at it, it looks like we're bleeding a bit into the sponge, which isn't great. But then the rest of the palette's gonna be like mostly grays. Yeah, maybe after the stream I'll have to do some wet palette maintenance and nip that bleeding into the or get that purple bleeding into the sponge out of there. think that the bleeding is a result of the WAP being too wet. A dry wet palette. That's also a problem that can happen. That problem happens probably happens more often for me as well. I find when I'm using my Frontier Wargaming wet palette, that dries out faster. It has more of like a regular like sponge texture, but like the Army Painter wet palette I find doesn't dry out, or like I have to refill the water levels less. I still have to refill them though, and speaking of, when I'm done with the gray on here, I'll probably take a bathroom break and also a break to replace the paint water with some fresh water, which I can also use to rehydrate the palette. Yeah, we're at an hour and a half. On the other hand, I have been doing a lot of stretching and yawning, so maybe when I'm done with the gray that's on the palette here, I should just wrap up the stream. I'll probably, but if I do another stream on Saturday, it would probably still be a base coating stream, depending on where I'm at. Either way, we're gonna need a bathroom break soon, I think. Yeah, so I think for this part here, we're just gonna paint some fake part separation. See how it looks if we keep those sections on the side gold there. Maybe we'll paint them black later. Now this little rectangle here will definitely look good with the proper gray color. Alright, see ya, Artie Chard. Thanks for coming by. I'm glad, as good to hear that you think the metallics look burnished, because that's what I was going for. That's a relief to hear that. And also, congrats / good luck with putting in notice at your job. And yeah, you definitely gotta take advantage of that staff discount while you have it. I feel you there. I certainly utilize my staff discounts when I have them. Oh, dang, Robert, you got the Tontor and the 5th anniversary box set? Well, congratulations on all your new dinosaurs. If you're ever in Alberta, Canada, let me know. Perhaps we can play a game of Conquest. Yeah, one job in retail is enough. That's very true. So you can see this is what paint that's a little too thin looks like when it's drying. Got some little pools there. Let's take a look at this shoulder piece that we painted earlier. Should be dry now. Oh yeah, that's a classic hand painted base coat there. I am going to use the bathroom now though. I can't wait any longer. So if I'm getting up to use the washroom, I might as well refresh my paint water too. So be back in 3 to 5 minutes, everybody. Okay, I'm back. We're just gonna refresh the wet palette. With a bit of water. Well, howdy. I was trying to think while I was on the break there whether I want to mix in some white to this yet. I think, yeah, we're just gonna put in a drop of white. I'm not gonna worry too much about the consistency. We got our very reliable bottle of golden high flow acrylics titanium white here. And let's say 3 drops. One issue with this bottle is we always get dribble afterwards. Grab the better mixing brush, crappy dollar store mixing brush. Just a bit of water. So probably once I'm done using up the paint that's on here, I'll probably wrap up the stream. I think it'll be about time. And I want to say the next stream will probably be Saturday morning, but I probably won't make a decision on that until later tonight when I'm back from playing Conquest at the local game store. Oh, thank you for the $9.99 super chat, Robert. A customer gave you 20 today, and you're gonna share it with me? Well, I very much appreciate that. All the super chats go a long way right now. Trust me. I just sold some Gunpla, some unbuilt Gunpla on Facebook Marketplace yesterday, as a matter of fact, to help me pay them bills. Oh, I'm seeing part of this that I did not give the first base coat that I missed. Good thing still on the sides of the palette here, we got some of the original color that I can quickly get on there. Yeah, I think what'll determine the next stream is, if I'm doing another base coating stream, I'm gonna want to be able to go a bit faster and have like the color blocking already figured out. So it depends on whether I want to get all the color blocking just done off camera so that the next stream I provide can just be onto something more exciting like edge highlights. Depends on how much I get done this afternoon. before I go to the local game store for some conquest. The last few weeks I've been bringing my 100 Kingdoms with me. But as some of you might have seen on Patreon or Discord, I've recently finished painting a 2000, or I finally have a 2000 point fully painted list for the spires, so we swapped the travel case. We swapped the 100 Kingdoms with the spires, so we're gonna game with the spires probably until like June, because the next thing in the big batch of painting I need to get done by June for GameCon Canada. All the spires are done for that now, which feels great. But there's still a lot of horsies for the 100 Kingdoms that need to be painted. Some horsies, and then there's like one Old Dominion model, one Wadroon model. The Angry Chickens. Want to get those painted by June as well. So, you know, it's probably in like late May, there'll just be like a flurry of live streams, perhaps, as I'm just like scrabbling to get that done. Yeah, so you can kind of see this second coat of gray I'm putting on isn't that much brighter. But it's functioning well for our second coat, just to like get the base coat foundation on there and differentiate it a bit from the other gray. But you know, with this being the white base coat, it is going to be the most difficult one to get smooth. And that's just the reality of painting white or off-white things. It also makes it more impressive to behold when you see it, because it, you know, white, yellow, orange, more difficult colors to paint like that stand out more because you don't see them as often. Although what the Gunpla say that this is more, or this phenomenon I'm describing is more of a miniature painting thing. So on average, there's probably like more white paint jobs and off-white paint jobs with Gunpla because airbrushing is more common, and also a lot of Gundam color schemes just like have a lot of white. Good to know, large beverage. Thank you for the heart, Robert. And thank you for appreciating the spires. I certainly have grown quite fond of my spires army, if I do say. Although I've grown quite fond of many armies that I've painted, just purely because it's like my army that I painted myself. Are you at work right now, large beverage? If I'm stream, or do you have the kind of job where you can like put on a stream to watch while you're working? Which, my opinion on that kind of stuff is like, yeah, definitely go ahead. Like, like, there's so many jobs out there that you can totally do the job to the specifications while also, like, you know, watching or like having a live stream playing. It's like, if you can get the job done properly, who cares if you got some like something else you're watching at the same time. Obviously really context dependent. Comstar forces are all white. Yeah, I think I've seen some of those. Yeah, so the white I mixed into the gray is only making a small difference, it seems, once it's dry, but it is, when you have it next to that other darker gray, it is noticeable enough that I do feel like I made the right choice in mixing in that white for the second coat. Parts manager at a dealership. Yeah, that definitely sounds like a job where you can have a second monitor going. If you're like on the customer dealing side of the dealership, perhaps you can't have a second monitor with a Gundam paint or live stream going on and while you're working at the same time. Although who knows, maybe you're sitting down with a client and they see and they're like, "Oh, you're watching Millennial Model Mayhem. I love them." Disappointed they haven't burped at all this stream, though. Sorry, the coffee just doesn't provide the same burps. Yeah, the coverage on this Vallejo's been decent. What's weird, Vallejo, sometimes the coverage is like total ass, and sometimes it's like really good. I find the new formulation of game color has been pretty decent for the coverage. But yeah, these two grays next to each other, it does look pretty nice. Coffee burps are usually accompanied with some pretty rank acid reflux. Yeah, I mean, the term manager can be quite nebulous and ambiguous sometimes, too. And, a lot of the time, manager can just be like a fake kind of promotion that higher managers can give other people. So they have like more tasks and responsibilities, but not much of actual pay increase or authority promotion. I'm too YouTuber brained now, so I'm just like, or self-employed brained is possibly the better term. Or I'm just like, every workplace is out to take advantage of you. But I'm also like, I do experience, or I do fully understand the drawbacks of the self-employed lifestyle. Pros and cons to each, for sure. Yeah. Rural town dealership. I see what you mean there. Definitely would make it all the more bamboozling if one of these rural townsfolk was like, "Oh yeah, I love Gunpla content." Is there a place in your dealership's rural town where you could buy a Gunpla kit or a miniature? Sometimes there is. Sometimes they might have like one tabletop game store where they sell like Warhammer, Magic the Gathering, and D&D and some board games. That's about it. But then, maybe they have like a high grade tucked into the back corner somewhere. You never know. Ivan, hello. Vallejo paints are either awesome or extremely disappointing. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of their camouflage army paint, or like army color paints, historical paints, I've had pretty good experiences with those overall. It's more like the more vibrant, like yellows and reds can be a bit more iffy. I say the coverage on the new Game Color Black is a little disappointing, but the matte finish is nice enough to make up for that. Oh, we had a fiber sticking off the end of the brush there. I completely described your promotion. I guess I am onto something there with my critiques of workplace dynamics. I mean, I was just thinking about what I had heard / experienced from like the work in a restaurant. Back in my old job as a school photographer, I remember vividly the day when I found out that the person who had been like kind of like a supervisor sort of manager, I guess they were like, they basically acted as the assistant manager for the main photographer manager. And this is the person who like basically was more of my manager than the actual manager, because she trained me on how to do like the grad photos and stuff. Not that I didn't know how to take photos before then. I was a photographer before I got my job working as a school photographer. But one day I found out that the person who had like trained me and was my essential supervisor was not making as much money as me. It's a bit of a bamboozle. Made me a bit salty because, you know, they deserve better. And I know now they're working for a different school photo company, a better, or one that more appreciates her talents. But I think what I did ask them like how much they were making, and I was still just like, you deserve so much more. Because now that they're in like an actual like official managerial position, I'm like, the pay rate doesn't give me a manager vibe though, or that hourly wage. I got lots of built up sodium about stuff like this. That's why unions are good, I think. Oh, you've got a game exchange and a Hobby Lobby. Okay, yeah. Hobby Town, USA, an hour away. That's not so bad. I guess rural, small town America is a lot different than rural, small town Canada in terms of like your chances of being able to find a place to buy Gunpla. We are just coming up on 2 hours. I think I'm gonna wrap up the stream quick. Or not quick. I'm gonna wrap up the stream after just doing another base coat on this big flat shoulder here. Yeah, I'm sure Country Fried Minis has got plenty of experience in rural, small town America. Seems on brand. What do you say in your YouTube intros? Country boy in the big city? I can see plenty of fiber and dust that's been painted into this flat panel here. This could be, because if I'm not doing the freehanding or the gradients, then the imperfections like that, like the dust and fibers I was talking about, is going to be more noticeable. So, you know, we'll make the final call on what kind of detailing I'm going to do after the base coating, obviously. But like I did mention earlier in the stream, the plan is to use decals after the typical edge highlighting I do. Just because I haven't done decals in a while. For the most egregious of flat panels, I could always, you know, take the 2000 grit sanding sponge to it to try and fix things up. I did that a bit on the base because one of the purple paints I used was so it's a bit on the older side, so it got some chunks inside it. You know, it's a bit chunky. Speaking of that base, I did show it like near the beginning of the stream, so I should make sure I show that again before I wrap things up. Country boy in the big city. Yeah, 15 years in the city. That's I mean, you'll always be a country boy at heart, though. Yeah, Oklahoma there doesn't sound too much different than where I am in Alberta or in Western Canada in general. There's lots of like, well, there's like a few major hub cities and then lots of like just big stretches of country in between them. Excuse me. Okay, just gonna give these waist sections another coat and then I'm gonna wrap up the stream. So if you have any last minute chats or super chats or just messages you need to send, now's your chance. Right now I'm feeling like the next stream will be Saturday morning. It will either be Saturday morning or Friday night, and it depends on how the continued base coating goes this afternoon / tomorrow. Suppose I could do a Friday morning stream. Probably not, though. In a perfect world, I like finish the rest of the base coating off stream. And then the next stream is like Saturday morning and I'm on to edge highlighting. But I'm not 100% confident that I'll be able to get, or like I'm not 100% confident that the base coating stage is going to be over that quickly, you know? Hello, tree stump. Oh, and Doodle Bopped, you got a perfect grade. Yeah, I haven't built one of those yet. I hear they are big. No, thank you for the compliment, Tree Stump. Just the leg is as big as your Master Grade Sword Impulse Gundam. That's pretty big. The clean painting, it's not from the wet palette. It's more just from doing multiple thin coats of paint, I'd say. The wet palette is more for keeping, like, stopping the paint from drying out. Especially, like, because I've mixed some white into this gray here. So because I've got the wet palette, the paint stays wet longer and I don't have to, like, remix the color as often, which is a huge time save. And then when it comes to things like painting the base, where there's like a lot of blending and gradients you gotta do, the wet palette is also very essential for that, because, like, you know, I can, you know, say I start painting with a darker color and then, you know, a while later I've moved on to the brighter color, but I need to, like, blend it in a bit better. I've still got some dark color on the palette that hasn't dried up yet because it's a wet palette, and I can just quickly, like, grab some and mix it in on the fly. So yeah, the main things the wet palette is for is just, like, making paints last longer and saving time because I don't have to refill it as much because they stay wet, and then also on the fly mixing. So those are, like, the main benefits. But also, like, and I don't know how well you can tell from just watching the stream, but, like, it looks pretty clean, like, at the surface level, but the closer you look, the more you can see, like, oh, there is, like, particles painted in there and uneven textures and brush strokes. But that's like with any model. If you look up close, you're gonna see the mistakes. Just why I think it's a good exercise to, like, go to your favorite builders' photos and, like, zoom in close to see that there probably are some mistakes or some dust or whatever. Just to, like, because sometimes you can compare yourself to others too hard and it feels, like, too negative. Oh, I see. So I mean, like, in theory, the wet palette helps with getting thin coats, because when you thin down a paint, like, the wet palette will make it not dry up as fast, so that maintains the consistency a bit. But you don't need a wet palette to, like, paint on too thin coats. It just makes things a lot easier. So many juicy phrases. I'm glad you think so. All right, well, we've broken 2 hours, and need to take care of some errands today too. Make sure I have enough time for that. And a little tired too. So yeah, next stream, we'll say Saturday morning, but no guarantees. I'm gonna continue to be a mysterious enigma with no stream schedule. So sorry, not sorry. Yet comparison is the destroyer of joy. Okay, well, with that said, thank you all very much for coming to this stream. The attendance is very nice, which is always encouraging, and there will definitely be some more streams with this project, as well as a video eventually. So yeah, thanks again for watching me do these exciting gray and black base coats, and thanks again to Country Fried Minis and Robert for the super chats. And have a great